Today we're talking about rising above negativity. We're going to talk about tips and strategy to overcoming that negative mindset, the pesky mindset that just sits there and just kind of torments you if you allow it. So it starts with, what is a negative mindset? What is that? What does that even mean? Do I have one? Do I not have one? So it's essentially the way that you talk to yourself, your internal dialogue. What do you say to yourself? What are your innermost thoughts? So our internal dialogue really dictates the way we view the situations that we're in, their circumstances, ourselves, how we go about those. Now, a negative mindset can be catastrophic in a sense, right? There's two different ways to wake up in the morning. You wake up and many of us hit the floor running, and then you're just in chaos, right? You're like, if I don't get these things done, then I'm a failure. You look in the mirror, you don't like who you are. And then there's the other person who gets up grateful that they are breathing that morning. They look in the mirror and they say, okay, well, maybe your hair doesn't look the best, but we can fix that really quick, right? And so there's two different ways that we talk to each other. And sometimes a negative mindset, we don't think of it, but it comes through years and years and years of talking to ourselves that way. Maybe we heard somebody say something negative about us, and that just became a way that we see ourselves. It's not true, but it happens. And sometimes it leads to a lot of worry about the future. A lack of self-confidence is a big one. Depression, stress about situations, and other areas of our life. So today we're going to talk about reframing the way that we think. It's important to do that, especially if you're stuck in a negative mindset. I keep trying to blend those words together. So step one, awareness. You need to have awareness that you do talk about yourself in this light, and being able to sit with those thoughts and ask yourself, why do I think these things? Are they true? And really get to the root of why they're there and really learn how to reframe it. Because if you're unaware and you're just like, well, this is just how I see myself. I've always been this way. I've always been fat. I always knew I was going to have this disease or whatever it is, and you just claim that negativity, it's going to take some work to reframe. So you have to start bringing attention to how your thoughts are, where they come from, how often you allow them to intercede in your day, because you may not even realize the extent of those thoughts and how often that they happen. Sometimes, like for me, a big one was looking in the mirror, especially after I had kids. Your body changes. It's different. You no longer recognize the person in the mirror. This woman that you were, that you cared about, is no longer the same person. And you start to say, oh my God, I wish I could just be skinny again. If I could just fit those pants again. If I could just lose 20 more pounds, instead of saying, I'm so thankful that I have a child today that is healthy, that I'm healthy, that I'm capable of being a mother and having those battle scars on my body, and that they tell a story. And so that's where the reframe happens. And it could even be your day is derailed. That was a big one for me too. If my day was interceded by something unexpected, I randomly get a call from a friend hey, I need your help right now, but my day is already set up, I would sometimes go into that negative thinking of okay, well now my whole day is messed up. But instead of reframing and saying, you know what, stop, you get to be a blessing to somebody today. That's more important than your laundry basket, right? So again, step one is gaining awareness, and I could just wrap around in each one and keep talking, but for time reasons, I'm going to try to stay on task. Okay, step two, building distress tolerance. What does that mean, right? There's a lot of big words in one sentence. That means, how do you respond to the stress in your life? Pay attention to things that trigger you into a negative mindset. Is it looking in the mirror? Then we probably need to start with some foundational positive affirmations about you. And say, I love you, and just say that repeatedly. And it's going to feel really weird at first, right? But it's all part of the reframing process and practice. So now, what happens to your mind and where do you feel the stress to is really big. Where do you feel that negativity? And that's becoming one with your body. That is really honoring yourself and sitting with that thought of, when I look in the mirror, what's happening? What's happening to my mind? What's happening to the way that I see the day ahead? I mean, we see it. We put on an outfit one day and we're like, oh my God, this is the ugliest outfit I've ever seen. We'll put it on next Wednesday and you're like, I feel fired. This is the best outfit I've ever owned. Right? And you can see the differences in the way that you behave based on your mindset. So take a step back, recenter yourself in those moments of negative thinking before taking action to reframe it. This allows you to feel control over the situation of how you feel. Step back, take a breath. It's all okay. and start reframing the way that you speak to yourself. Step number 3, change perception or reframe. So I kind of blended those two together. So another way to overcome negative thoughts is by reframing the problem from one that's negative to one that is hopeful or positive. So redefining a problem as a challenge as opposed to an obstacle you can't overcome. So you'll see the obstacle, you see the situation, the thought, whatever it is, and you go into this self-loathing almost of, well, how can I fix it? But it's not something that necessarily needs to be fixed all the time. Maybe it's just something that needs to be processed, and then say, how do I take action to make this better? If I don't like what I see in the mirror, could I nourish my body today and eat something a little bit healthier? Maybe go on a walk. It doesn't have to be extreme. It doesn't mean 5 days of cardio. How can I love myself today? Step number 4 is some self-soothing coping skills. So this is a great way to overcome negative thoughts. It's kind of be like a first aid, right? What can I do to ensure that this thought doesn't overtake me? And some examples of that are positive affirmations. This is a big one that we use all the time, and it's one that people don't use often enough. So positive affirmations are very silly, and it's different for everyone. Like your positive affirmations can be different from mine versus your neighbor versus your best friend versus the 20 other friends that you have. It's going to be different. For me, it's sitting with God. It's letting God speak his words over me, and that is important to me, to see myself through his eyes and his perception. But sometimes looking in the mirror and looking at my face and saying, I am beautiful. Like, I'm thankful that I have both of my eyes. I'm thankful I have both of them and I can see through them. I'm grateful for that. You know, I have 2 legs. I can go for a walk. I can do that. And just reinforcing the gratefulness of where you are in the present moment. Say it out loud. My time to do this personally is after I drop my kids off at school. I don't like doing it in front of people. I mean, I will, but it seems super awkward. But I drop my kids off. I'm like, okay, God, show me. And I start speaking things, and it becomes very powerful when you say them out loud. And it kind of gets me into a rhythm set up for the day. It's also the space of time I have before I step into the gym to nourish my body even more, to show myself even more self-care and nourishment and positivity of doing something that I feel is good for me. Another thing is deep breathing. This is one that I just have started here recently. It's very good for stress, but it's also good for negative emotions because they kind of go hand in hand. When you're thinking you guys get what I'm trying to say. When you're in that negative light, you can almost feel anxiousness, right? It's like maybe your heart beats faster, maybe your brain goes into a to-do list and you're not really sitting in the moment. And sometimes what needs to happen is just sitting there and saying, there's several memes that I've seen is inhale positivity, exhale negativity. And you can even just say that with your breath work and hold on to that. And you'll see things arise and you'll be able to just let them go. Replace thoughts with cognitive abilities. If you feel like your thoughts are overwhelming you, you can try to set them aside. This is not one that's like super common because it's like, don't distract. Again, it goes to the awareness, but sometimes you need to take a step back from it because it's too anxious, it's too raw, it's too emotional. And if you're not in a safe place to do that, sometimes it looks like maybe going for a walk, maybe pulling out a crossword puzzle, maybe pulling out a book, just to kind of recenter yourself, to calm down from those negative thoughts and emotions that are happening. Coach Lisa preaches meditation. A lot of people do. It's such a good one. It puts you in a place to stop and be intentional with your thoughts. Because I'm a mom and a wife and I am a doer and I love a distraction as the next person. I'm like, nope, can't deal with that. Nope, don't have time to cry. Nope, don't have time for that. But if you're caught up in those negative emotions or feelings, setting down that time again to just reinforce a positive thought can change the entire outlook of your day or the moment or the situation. Okay, step number 5, releasing judgment. Give yourself some grace. It happens to everyone. Everyone has a moment where they lack that positive influence in themselves. Maybe it's fear, a situation. It's just you don't think you can, you don't think you're capable, right? We start saying, oh, I can't do this. I don't know how. And we get whirled up in that instead of saying, okay, maybe I can't do it to that level, but where can I start? Again, reframing the way that you think. So not having brutal opinions of and about and to yourself is really important. No matter how successful and happy you seem externally, we all put on that smile. I'm a person who's like, I can be in a super bad mindset, but I'm like, okay, pull it together, splash some water in my face, and I will smile for that situation. And of course, there's like a time and a place for that. Like, you can't just go into your dance recital and be crying everywhere. Like, but definitely make space for that when you have a moment. Don't keep putting it off, because it does catch up to you and it does store in your body. Okay. So step number 6, expressing your thoughts and feelings, whether it is to yourself, to someone that you feel safe with. Could be a spouse, could be a best friend, could be somebody you never ever met before. I sometimes find myself doing that. Like, I'll never met this person and I'm like laying it out like this is a therapy session, and it feels so awkward. But sometimes you feel safe in that because you're bonding with someone over a certain circumstance. And definitely wrap yourself around people who support and encourage your uplift, not people who are Debbie Downers, not people who are like, oh my God, you are so right, you don't deserve that, or you know what, you're never gonna make it. Surround yourself with people who say, how can I help you? Or someone who's just there to listen without motive. And then that again comes into a safe place. And maybe you don't feel comfortable talking to somebody else. For me, it's therapy. Like, I go to my therapist and I don't have the judgment of it being someone close to me. So I prefer that. But I love the intention of someone saying, okay, it's time to slow down and refocus and let's see where your mind is at. But maybe for you, it's journaling. Right? And that's another one that people don't use often enough, but it's so powerful. I love looking up, just like Google it, mindfulness journal prompts, and see where your mind is at. See where it takes you, right? The first thing that comes to your mind, and process through it. And it could get really deep sometimes, and that's okay. And always end it with, okay, but how can I turn this negative thought around? How can I make this better? It's really important to let go of those self-destructive thoughts, especially because they can wear you down over time. It does seem hard at first. Anything does, but practice it. And I say all this humbly because I've absolutely been there. I'm still not a perfect human being. We all struggle, right? But things that I have done are therapy. I've definitely tried journaling. Journaling is actually one of my favorite ways to do it, but making the space and time can be hard. So if you're just starting to do this and you're like, you know what, this sounds really good, don't have these super crazy expectations. Don't be like, I have to journal for 30 minutes. Who said it had to be 30 minutes, right? It could be 5. It could be 3. I actually just told one of my clients about this, and it's called the 5-minute journal. It's on Amazon. I could add the link. 5-minute journal. And it literally just has like one line, and it asks you a question, you fill out that one line, and you'll be amazed at how over time you really start to connect mindfulness, and it will help you see a deeper side of yourself. Think of journaling as a brain dump. It's just writing out those thoughts. It isn't about the time. I wouldn't say put a time. Like, don't put a time on it, which is why it's like, don't say 30 minutes. Don't just say 5. Just say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to walk through this because it's important. And journal prompts are super, super helpful. Like Kimberly said, practice makes perfect. Use these tips. Try them out. Try journaling. Try the positive affirmations. Be silly with yourself. Have fun. It could be dancing. It could be anything. Just start to have that awareness of, do I have this? And just to add in, as I get off of here, I do have a PDF sheet for those of you who want to walk in through this a little bit more. And it's a negative mindset sheet to see, hey, do I possibly think a little more on the negativity side? It's such a good worksheet. I'm going to hop off of here. It was so great to catch up with all of you. I hope this helps you work on that negative thinking, be positive. If you need me, reach out to me. Bye, guys.